Hello everybody, welcome back to my book channel. My name is Olivia and today we are going to be doing the end of year book tag. Before I get any further into this video, I want to thank whatsdesreading and Rachel Catherine. I saw them do this tag on their channels. Thank you to you guys. Love you both. Also, I did switch out a few questions only because I read like a bunch of genres, and so I wanted to make sure that there were questions for all my fave books, you know? So yeah, I'm really excited. Let's get into the questions. Don't want to waste any more of your time in this intro. Okay, the first question in the book tag is most disappointing book of the year. And I think for me, the most disappointing book of the year has to be Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. So sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I felt like the idea of a coffee shop that allows you to go back in time and like interact with people from your past was a really unique idea, and there were all these like cool rules and stuff that like went with the time travel, and I just felt like it was a great opportunity to have really unique and deep conversations, but I just felt like the execution wasn't my favorite. So I had pretty high hopes for that book, and again, it just wasn't the best. So yeah, I think it has to be Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Question number 2 is Underdog Book of the Year. And I knew the answer to this one immediately. I was gifted Remarkably Bright Creatures, I think towards the beginning of the year, sometime in there. Had literally no expectations at all whatsoever. I was like, oh, sounds good. I'll read it. This was one of my favorite books of the entire year. I absolutely loved this story. I'm not going to get like into the synopses and everything about these books. I'm going to do like a full 2023 like wrap up video where I talk about the anywhere between like 40 and 50 books that I read this year. I don't know what it's going to end up being. But this book, all I'm going to tell you guys, one of the POVs in this book is an octopus named Marcellus living in an aquarium. And he is like one of my favorite book characters I've ever read in my entire life. So that would be Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. Maybe I'll put the physical copies over here. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Question number 3, a book that was overhyped. I think I might lose some subscribers over the answer to this question. The book that I feel, I'm treating this kind of like a series. This book, I read this entire series this year, and personally, I am gonna go with Once Upon a Broken Heart. I know. I'm not saying that this wasn't good because this world was so beautiful and magical and the writing was quite honestly exquisite. I just didn't connect with the characters and also just the plot in the way that the hype led me to think that I would, if that makes sense. I think the concept is so fun. I love all the fairy tale elements in here, and I loved the idea that our main girl is just trying to like cope with a broken heart and how do you deal with that. And again, I thought it was so beautiful. I just didn't love it. Like this was like a 3 to 4 star series for me, but I would still recommend it. If you haven't read this series yet, a lot of people absolutely love it. I'm definitely an unpopular opinion. The next question I think is a little bit unfair. It's favorite book couple. And so I've somehow narrowed it down to 3. This was so challenging for me to do. The first book couple that I am absolutely head over heels in love with is Harriet and Wynne from Happy Place. Favorite book of the year, I'll say it. I loved that book so much. And to me, this relationship felt the most real any romantic, like romance relationship has ever felt to me ever. Like it just, oh my God, I won't get into it, but it was so good. I related to Harriet on so many different levels, and Wynne was like the dream book boyfriend. So that's one couple. Another couple, like it would be a crime if I didn't mention this couple, and that is Macy and Elliot from Love and Other Words. I loved this relationship because we have 2 timelines. So you have Macy and Elliot when they're young, and then them in the present after something went wrong. I just love Second Chance. I think it's so fun. And there's a lot of really great like scenery. Like part of this book is at like a lake house, I think. And they just like grow up together and read together, and it's the sweetest little romance. I really want to reread this. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that soon. And then the final book couple that I just have to mention is Feyre and Rhysand. Do I need to say anything else? I don't think that I do. I just chef's kiss, love them so much. This book was gorgeous. I loved their relationship, and I just loved how everything like came together in this book and even throughout the series. So good, so magical, literally in love with them. Literally in love with them. Okay, favorite main character. We're kind of sticking with the Sarah J. Maas little train right now because I think my favorite main character from this year was Selena Sardothian. What a badass. I mean, world famous assassin. No one knows that she's a girl. Not only is she incredibly strong and powerful, but she's also genius. Like, don't you just eat that up? Because I absolutely do. I've said this before on my channel, but I love trials in books, and this is like exactly that. It's all these like people in the kingdom coming together to compete to be the king's assassin, but I just absolutely loved her. And this was a reread for me. Loved her potentially even more the second time around. So yeah, I think my favorite book main character would have to be Selena Sardothian. The next question is book that surprised you, and there was actually two that came to mind for me. The first one I think has to be Daisy Jones and the Six. I mean, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've loved all her books that I've read up to this point. I was expecting to love Daisy Jones and the Six. Like, that didn't come at a surprise. But just the storytelling I thought was so beautiful. And I also listened to this on audio. And it was a really unique experience to hear this book told through the voices of a bunch of different actors. And so I think I was really surprised by how much I connected with the story of this like band coming together. I just absolutely loved it. And then the second book that came to mind, you guys can see me like shuffling around through my books down here. The second book that came to mind for me was surprisingly, I mean, I guess that's the question, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I know that this is like long overdue. I don't know. I've heard some people love this book. I've also heard some people hate this book. So I didn't really know what to expect. I don't really go into Colleen Hoover books expecting like a beautiful piece of literature. They're just very like bingeable books, but I honestly really enjoyed the storytelling in this book. It's like about relationship abuse, and there's a really unique way of like telling two timelines through like diary entries. Some people don't like that. I personally really loved it, and I just connected with the romance in this so much more than I thought I would. And I actually currently have It Starts With Us on my shelf because this was so good. Now I want to read that. So yeah, this was another big surprise of the year. Okay, question number 7 is a new favorite author that you discovered in 2023. I could have put a lot of people for this question. The one that actually came to mind for me was Frida McFadden. I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden this year and ate it up. Oh my goodness, absolutely ate it up. I'm not a huge mystery thriller person. I only read a few per year, but I really, really loved the like fast-paced writing style, and I definitely want to read more of her work in the future. Again, it's kind of like when I scatter in those mystery thrillers, I think I'm going to definitely pick up more of hers because I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed that book. Happiest book of the year is the next question. This is so easy for me. It's not even funny. I ironically loved Happy Place. Easily, by a mile, my favorite, most happy book of the year. Although I definitely cried a lot during it, but like a lot of it was happy tears, I think. Yeah, I'm so pumped for the paperback to come out. Emily Henry just announced that it's coming out, I think in March. So you guys know that I'm gonna go and get myself a paperback and destroy that thing with annotations because I read it for the first time on my Kindle because the rest of my Emily Henry books are paperback. So you know that that's coming in March. Anyway, the other book that I put in this category is also Love in Other Words. Again, I just ate that book up so much and it brought me so much joy. The next question is most frustrating book of the year. There were two, and they were frustrating for different reasons. The first one is Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. Part of this is my fault though. Like all I knew about this book was it's a Hades Persephone retelling. I've read Song of Achilles. I've read Percy Jackson. I love a good Greek retelling. I want to read Circe next year, like all over it. So I think it's partly the fact that I didn't know what I was getting myself into, But that book, not even going to get into it. I think it would technically be categorized as a dark romance. If that's the case, I think dark romances just aren't for me. And I did rate it 1 star. I really didn't like it. And then the other book that I read that was really frustrating was Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. I love Christina Lauren, Love in Other Words, and then also My Favorite Half Night Stand are 2 of my all-time favorite books. Like literally top tier, love them so much. So then I read this and I think I literally rated it like 2 or 2.5 stars. The tropes in here, not my favorite. The miscommunication, very prominent. Like, I don't know. I remember going to Barnes and just being like, oh my gosh, I'll give it a shot. It sounds really good. And then it really wasn't. So that was really disappointing and frustrating. Now we're starting to get into some of the different questions that I added a few myself just so I could cover like the diversity of genres, if that makes sense, that I've read this year. So my next question is favorite nonfiction book that I've read. And this was a tight race between a few, I won't lie, but I think ultimately what I decided on was Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. If you guys don't know, this is actually my second channel. I have a main channel where I talk about all things humanity and anthropology. And this book is very anthropological. It looks at, humans in the context of the future, if that makes sense. So what does disease look like in our future? What does aging look like in our future? What does AI look like in our future? And I loved these conversations, and also the fact that this book was published a little bit ago now. So to look at things like disease and a pandemic, like after it's already happened, right? So like when Harari was writing about this, COVID hadn't happened yet. So kind of being like, oh, how is this aligned with what actually happened and how is it different? It was just so good. So I would highly recommend checking that out if you're interested in nonfiction. Another question that I added myself is favorite memoir. This is my memoir era. I have read a few this year and all of them were great, but I think the one that was my favorite was My Life with Chimpanzees by Jane Goodall. I have not heard a single person talk about this memoir. It's not new, I don't think. And again, I just love like anthropology and primatology. And I have always loved Jane Goodall, but oh my God, this memoir was something else. I mean, you hear this woman in like the jungle of Africa. She's like in a plane crash, and then like her options of survival are like crossing a crocodile infested river. And so she's like, obviously I did it. And she survived. And then the next chapter is her like observing chimpanzees, and there's like a jaguar that could eat her if it sees her. But she's just like hanging out watching her like cute family of chimpanzees as they like come back to her tent and steal bananas from her. Like I don't know how else to describe it. It was just so fascinating and so beautiful, and like her connection with these animals and how one with these parts of Africa, and again, these beautiful creatures that she was and is, was just breathtaking to me. So yeah, that's a book that's certainly not hyped up on booktube at all, and I would highly recommend checking it out. I loved it. Okay, now we're getting into longest book of the year and shortest book of the year. The longest book that I read this year, let me grab it, was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas at a baffling 757 pages. So I think this might be the longest book I've read literally since like Harry Potter. This thing was a brick, and I definitely went back and forth between the physical book and the audiobook. You can see my tabs in there for Nesta and Cassian. But yeah, this book was giant. I really enjoyed it. Oh my gosh, I just saw my life flash before my eyes. I really thought I knocked this over. We're good. So yeah, this was the longest book I read. And then the shortest book that I read this year was A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frank, or Frank? I don't know. And this book was the other one competing for like best nonfiction. I'm so sorry. I don't know if this is a memoir. I don't think so. Don't think that's technically what it's categorized as, but if it is, please let me know. This is about the Holocaust, more specifically the author's experience living through the Holocaust. And he also does like psychoanalysis in here on like humanity and our ability to cope. And it was just devastating and heartbreaking and also so gorgeous. And I was constantly asking myself, like, how do you come out of this experience and produce something so beautiful? Like, I don't know. I really have no idea. But I loved this book so much. I know it's just supposed to be like shortest book that you read this year. But yeah, it was just so good. Prepare yourself if you haven't read it, because I literally just cried the whole time. Favorite book cover? Easy. All right, you guys, so easy. If you've been here a little while, you know what it's gonna be. And that is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. This was a Christmas gift to me last year. Just look at it. I don't know if it's gonna focus, but it like glitters with gold and I love it. I read this a few months ago. Highly recommend, definitely recommend this edition because it's beautiful. And if I had more shelving, I would display it because it's so beautiful and I love it. So yeah, this was a really fun one. Okay, if this is only like 10 or 15 books that I enjoyed from 2023, how is the video next week, or I don't know, towards the end of December gonna go when I talk about all the books that I've read? Because that's literally like 40 or 50 books. I don't know. The next question is unpopular book that you loved. I don't know if this is unpopular. I just don't see people talking about it that much. And that would have to be The Girl with the Louding Voice by Abi Dare. This was, again, stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. I loved it. Oh no, I'm running out of storage. 1 second, everybody. I'm sorry about that. I think we're good now. But as I was saying, this book, I feel like I don't hear people talk about it that much. And it follows this girl growing up in a village in Nigeria. And it essentially follows the story of her like becoming educated. I feel like that's the best way to summarize it. Again, this will tear you apart and mostly, no, it puts you back together. It's just like a very emotional journey, and I would highly, strongly, very much recommend checking out trigger warnings beforehand. I feel like this had a really deep impact on me and made me really grateful for the things in my own life. And again, I don't hear a lot of people talking about this book. I do think it is popular. I think it's likely that just the people that I follow and like watch haven't read this book. But yeah, if you haven't heard about it, go check it out because it's really just gorgeous and I think more people should read it. Okay, the next category that we have is book with the most unique concept. And for me, I think it has to go to Trust by Hernan Diaz. This book is basically like 4 different books within it. And what's unique about it is each of these 4 books is telling the same story, but they're all so vastly different. And it is historical fiction. It takes place during the stock market crash after at the end of the 1920s, 1930s. And it calls into question how this one like husband and wife got their money. And the whole idea is like, who can you trust, right? There's all these different like perspectives and stories in here. And it really is just a little bit mind-boggling. And it was so unique. I didn't necessarily love like the storytelling, if that makes sense. Like the writing itself wasn't like my absolute favorite thing ever, but I thought the concept was really unique and something I had not seen before. Okay, so those are all the books. And then the last 2 questions are just about me. Reading goal, number 18 is reading goal reflection and 2024 reading goal. So my goal last year was to read 23 books, and currently I'm filming this on December 7th. I've read 44 books, and like there's still a few weeks to go in the year, which is my best reading year ever. For the last like, I don't know, 4 years, I've probably read between like 20 and 40 books. So this is easily my best year in like 4 or 5 years. So that's really exciting. And then next year, my goal is to read 24 books, which I know if I could read that many books this year, why set a low goal? And I don't know if you noticed, 2023, it was 23 books, 2024, it's 2024 books, or not 2024 books. 24 books. I hope that's making sense. I'm getting tired now. And I don't know. I just want to be able to commit time to all the other wonderful areas of life besides reading. And so I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself just because I have decided to make book content. And then the last question is, what are you prioritizing in 2024 with your reading? And I really would love to finish some series. I think that would be awesome. I think I also want to continue to be very diverse with the genres that I read. as you can tell, I don't know if there's a clear standout here. To be fair, this is just like a small fraction of the books that I did read this year, but I like to mix it up and I want to keep doing that. And then the last thing is I really would love to take full advantage of Kindle Unlimited. I think that would be really great. My physical TBR is really dwindling down, including my current read. I have 7 books that I own and haven't read. The rest, I've done it. So I think it'd be really cool to do some more Kindle Unlimited reading. Okay, guys, I think that is my end of year 2023 book tag. Let me know what your favorite and least favorite books of 2023 have been in the comment section down below. And get excited for a full video about all the books that I read in 2023. Again, it's going to be a hefty video. Maybe I'll try to do it in like reviews in a sentence or less. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting situation. All tips will be accepted down below. So yeah, I hope you guys are having a great day and a great reading month, and I will see you in the next one. All right, you guys. Bye.